Hello. It's good to see you. Today we are going to be reading recipes for cupcakes. Beautiful cupcakes. Look at all these pretty little cupcake liners. So many beautiful patterns. They look like fabric, but they're cupcake liners. But when we do these recipes today, we're doing them with a twist. We did one of these a while back. These are going to be cupcake recipes read with gossip. It's completely ad lib. These are not real people. These are not real incidents. I'm going to work in some ad lib, impromptu, improved gossip. Little made up gossip stories as we read these cupcake recipes. And we come to this first one. Doesn't that look beautiful? You can tell an artist did that. Someone who has a real eye for beauty in more ways than one. Now, the person who made these is a hairdresser. The hairdresser's name is Suzanne, and she loves to create works of art. Suzanne was always the type to be very quiet, kind of keeps to herself, Never liked drama or trouble or anything like that. Just a very simple person. She likes peace in her life. Suzanne's biggest dream was to someday have her own salon and be a private owner of his salon. And as she would sit in her apartment and think about this dream, she would craft beautiful cupcakes, came up with all kinds of recipes. This one was one that was a favorite of her boyfriend. The boyfriend's name is Scott. So Suzanne was telling Scott about this recipe when she first came up with it. He was not a big fan of maple syrup. But she said, Scott, maple syrup and pecans are a classic combination, and no better anywhere than in these light, sticky cupcakes topped with creamy, buttery frosting and caramelized pecans. Look out for the darker amber maple syrup, as it has a more intense flavor that really shines through in the fluffy, buttery cake. Now, Scott kind of perked up a little bit when she started to tell him about the darker amber maple syrup. She mentioned intense flavor, fluffy, buttery cake. And Scott kind of perked up, and Suzanne noticed this. She had noticed frequently that whenever she talked about some of the aspects of her recipes, that he would kind of get a little animated, shall we say. It's very interesting. Now, another time she noticed this was when her roommate Tanya would come back from belly dancing class. And if Scott was there, he was always very eager to ask her questions about her belly dancing class. And she would come back she was all oiled up. She liked to put oil on her arms to make them look nice and soft. And Scott would always compliment her on her toned arms, and he would ask about her belly dancing techniques. And he seemed to laugh a little bit too much and respond a little bit too strongly to the things she would say. So one day, Suzanne told Scott that she was leaving for work. She had some of these sitting out on the table. She told Scott to help himself to some of her maple and pecan cupcakes. And Scott said, oh, maybe later. So Suzanne pretended to leave, and Scott said he was leaving for work shortly. But then Suzanne doubled back because she just had a feeling something's going on. Now Scott gives piano lessons for a living. That's his job. That's what he does. He's actually very good. And she came back and she opened the door, and there stands Scott right in the living room with this fluffy, lovely buttercream frosting all over his mouth. And then Tanya came skipping into the room with buttercream frosting all over some parts of her body other than her mouth. And she seemed to have lost her clothes. And Suzanne was horrified. She screamed at them, "How could you do this to me? How could you do this to me?" She was devastated. Her friend, her roommate, her boyfriend, how could they betray her like this? And Scott said, "It's not what it looks like. It's not what it looks like." Suzanne said, "I know exactly what it looks like because I remember the ingredients that go into my maple and pecan cupcakes. Let me tell you what I see on your mouth and what I see on Suzanne in various places. I see 1 stick, 8 tablespoons of butter at room temperature, 1/4 cup of packed brown sugar, 2/3 cup of pure maple syrup, 2 eggs, 1 cup of self-rising flour, 1/2 cup of pecan nuts, roughly chopped." She also intimated to Scott that he was very lucky that she was not considering roughly chopping his nuts. To decorate, you need 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, 12 pecan nut halves, 3 tablespoons of butter at room temperature. She also implied that she would like to see his entire body at room temperature, 3 tablespoons of pure maple syrup, 1 1/4 cups of confectioner's sugar sifted, and a 12-cup muffin pan. Scott said, "It's not like that. I was getting ready to play one of her songs so she could practice her belly dancing here at the apartment. And then she slipped and fell into the muffin plate with all the cupcakes on it. The cupcakes." He was all stumbling all over himself. He was over-explaining his lie. And she's just standing there shaking her head like, "Just stop, just stop." He said, No. She was coming over to thank me for playing so she could practice her belly dancing, and she slipped and she fell onto the cupcakes and she got the buttercream frosting all over herself. And I was trying to help clean it up with my mouth because I did not want to mess up your nice napkins. And then she just went ahead and took her clothes off because they were covered in buttercream frosting and sticky maple syrup. And here you are thinking it's something else. Suzanne said, "I am no fool. I am not as stupid as you think I am." He said, Of course not. And she said, "In fact, I can give you the instructions for this cupcake recipe. I know it by heart. Preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Then line the muffin pan with paper liners." And Scott said, "Suzanne, what the heck are you talking about? We're right in the middle of something." And she said, "I want to prove to you that I am no dummy. I'm going to tell you exactly how to make these cupcakes. Completely from memory. I don't have to read it at all. Beat the butter and sugar together in a bowl until creamy. Then beat in the maple syrup. Beat in the eggs, one at a time. Then sift the flour into the mixture and fold in. Fold in the nuts, then spoon the mixture into the muffin cups and bake for about 17 minutes until risen and golden, and a skewer inserted into the center comes out clean, like you have skewered my heart. You wicked man." Transfer to a wire rack to cool. To To make the caramelized pecans, put the granulated sugar in a saucepan and add 2 tablespoons of water. Heat gently, stirring until the sugar melts and dissolves. Increase the heat and boil for about 6 minutes until it turns a pale gold color. Spread the nuts out on a sheet of parchment paper and spoon over a little of the caramel to cover each nut individually. Let cool. Scott interrupted and said, "I never said you were stupid." Suzanne said, "You didn't have to, because you came up with a terrible excuse for why you have this all over your mouth, and she has it all over some other stuff that I'm not going to mention. You can see where it is." Now let me finish. Beat the butter, maple syrup, and confectioner's sugar together in a bowl until pale and fluffy. Spread the mixture over the cupcakes and top each one with a caramelized pecan. This entire time, Tanya had been standing there not really saying anything. She was still naked, with the buttercream frosting in some places that were probably starting to become a little uncomfortable and possibly itchy. And so Tanya said, "Look, it's not what you think. Scott is totally right. I was going to practice my belly dancing, and he was going to play that song, and then he was going to leave." Well, Suzanne left. She stayed gone for a day. And then she came back. And no one's exactly sure whatever happened to Tanya and Scott. But I do know that about a week later, Suzanne was planting some beautiful flowers out in the community garden in front of the apartment complex. And that is the end of the tale of the maple and pecan cupcakes. Oh, these look delicious. All right, we have some delicious little cupcakes here. Don't they look good? I almost thought that was gummy bears at first, but it's not. Here we have gingerbread cupcakes with lemon icing. Gingerbread was always the favorite of Connor. Connor is a young man who just bought a house with his partner Stacy. Now, it was a fixer-upper, but they didn't have a lot of money, but they were very handy. They were both really good at fixing things. So they decided they would buy this fixer-upper and do a lot of the work themselves, a little bit along as they could. And one thing they enjoyed doing while they, took a break was to make these lovely cupcakes. They're both big fans of gingerbread. And Connor introduced Stacy to it when they first started dating. And she'd never really thought about gingerbread other than just like at Christmas time or something like that. But she found that she really loved it. And they had this nice cake server, and they found that it was the perfect little pedestal for their lovely little cupcakes. And sometimes their parents might come over, and they would always have some of these for a snack. They could have these after dinner, or it's just an in-between meals little snack while they had a nice visit. And these things are great. And Connor would tell you himself, these soft, sticky, dark brown cupcakes are dense and gingery and delicious, drizzled with a simple lemon icing. If you want elegant, flat-topped cupcakes, make them in large liners. But if you prefer domed cupcakes with icing drizzling down the sides, make them in regular size liners. As you can see here, they really preferred to do just the regular size liners, so they had the domed top to them and they were not so flat. And these things are lovely. They have nice topping on top of the simple lemon icing as well. So Connor and Stacy had some of these in the oven, and they were working on some drywall. And they ran into a little issue with the drywall that they were not able to address. So Connor said, "Hey, how about I give Jody a call?" Stacy was not cool with that. Stacy kind of turned and looked at him. She was bashing a hole in part of the drywall that was, they were trying to remove. And she turned and looked at him and said, "Jody, I don't know about that. I don't think we need Jody's help. And Connor said, it's in the past. You know, you need to learn to let things go. There are no feelings there anymore. You know, I love you, but you tend to be a little jealous. You overthink things. You always think people are up to no good. You don't trust people. You know, I'm sorry that your parents' marriage was toxic and bad, and you know, your dad cheated on your mom, and your mom cheated on your dad, and it was like a whole soap opera. And she said, just stop. You don't need to go over all of it. I was there, I know. The Connor said, well, I'm just saying, you know, not everybody does things behind other people's backs. And if you don't trust me enough to let me call on Jody to help us, well, I just don't know what kind of future we can have. So Stacy heard the timer ding on the oven, so she went to take the gingerbread cupcakes out. They smelled so good. Oh my gosh. And it kind of interrupted the conversation for a minute when she took them out, and they both smelled the lovely aroma of the gingerbread. And Stacy said, oh, these smell so good. And Connor said, well, of course they do. I mean, think of the wonderful ingredients in these cupcakes. You have 4 tablespoons of butter, and at the same time they would always say the same thing, butter always makes everything better. And they shared a little laugh. We also have a quarter cup of packed brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of light corn syrup, 2 tablespoons of dark molasses, 1 teaspoon of ground ginger. And they always loved going to the farmer's market to get fresh ginger together on Saturday mornings. You also need 1/3 cup of milk, 1 egg beaten, 2 pieces of stem ginger and syrup, drained and chopped, and 1 cup of self-rising flour. And all that just goes into what Stacy just took out of the oven. So they're smelling that, and she just set the pan up on the oven and turned the oven off. And then Connor went back to what he was saying. He said, you know, look, Jody can help with this. This is an issue that we can't handle because we have electrical wires involved, and I'm really not comfortable working on that. And you know Jody can handle that kind of thing better than I can. And Stacy said, why don't we just call an electrician? You know, I'm really just not comfortable with your ex coming over here to do this, you know. And again, Connor's, you know, you gotta trust me. Do you not trust me? Well, of course, but wouldn't you feel weird if I had an ex over here? And of course, Connor says, no, of course not. I would be totally fine because I am totally comfortable in our relationship. So Stacy relented, plus she was thinking how much it would cost to have an electrician come out. So that's always expensive. So she said, okay, all right, Jody can come over, but I insist on being here the entire time, and I'm not leaving. And Connor said, okay, that just proves how insecure you are. I don't really see what the problem is. You know, nothing's gonna happen, but if you don't trust me, maybe we should just put the house on the market. So that's what Connor would do. He would just go like, he would just hit the nuclear button, like he would just go full out. Whenever he wasn't getting his way, and this really bothered Stacy a lot, whenever he wasn't getting his way, this was his way of pouting. It was like a grown-up temper tantrum. Well, we can just sell the house then. If you're that insecure, maybe we just need to sell the house and go our separate ways. Because he knew this would freak Stacy out because of her history with her parents, and that her father was always threatening to leave her mother. So she was very insecure about that. It really bothered her. So she said, no, it's okay. You know, all right, I don't have to be here. I would prefer to be here, but I'll do whatever you want me to do. So Connor said, you know, Jody might not even want to come over here because honestly, you're acting a little weird, and other people have noticed how insecure you are. So I don't even know that Jody wants to come over here because it's just kind of awkward. Like, You remember when we ran into Jody at the restaurant and you were all weird? And Stacy said, I don't know what you mean. What do you mean weird? Well, you wouldn't look at him, you wouldn't say anything, and you were just very cold and rude. And she said, I was not. She's thinking, I was not. I was civil. It's your ex. So I'm not going to sit there and, like, you know, be all excited. He's gaslighting her so bad. Oh, okay. Oh. So, well, you weren't very nice. So Jody might not even want to come over. Okay, so now Stacy's just feeling all kinds of ways. And Stacy blurted out, I will call him. I'll call Jody. Okay. So she got Connor's phone to get the number and she calls Jody. And Jody was kind of weirded out, like, why are you calling me? Well, we need you to come help us. We have an electrical issue. We were dealing with some drywall and we ran into some trouble with some wires. So Jody comes over and Connor's there. And all of a sudden, Connor, as soon as Jody gets there, Connor starts just spazzing. He goes, oh my God, Stacy, don't you remember? There was a sale at the craft store today. Oh, and look at the time, Stacy. The sale is a one-day sale and it's going to end in a half hour. You better go if you want to go. And Stacy's sitting there going, I don't remember a sale at the craft store, but I basically live at the craft store. I love the stuff there. I'm always finding decorative items. Oh, you better go. And Stacy's looking at him like, you know, Jody had his back turned and she's looking at Connor like, what are you doing? And Connor whispers to her, I thought you said you trusted me. She said, I do trust you. I mean, I trusted you so much that I gave you the ingredients to put on our gingerbread cupcakes that makes them extra special. Like, nobody knows what this stuff is. Remember, I told you, and you had to keep it a secret. It's 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, 1 2/3 cups of confectioner's sugar sifted, 2 to 3 pieces of stem ginger in syrup drained and chopped. And you put it all in a 12-cup muffin pan, and then you have apricots up here. And he looked at her and rolled his eyes and said, that's hardly, you know, like a federal offense if I tell anybody that. Like, nobody cares, Stacy. Nobody cares about this. You think these things are so important. They're not important. You asked me to keep secrets, but the secrets don't even matter. So why don't you run off to the craft store here? I'll give you my credit card. You just go, and I don't even remember what you were looking for, but they're having their big sale. So you're going to have to hurry. You're going to have to shop fast. So she kind of glanced over at Jody and looked at Connor again like, oh, okay, sure, I guess I'll go. So Jody seemed very relieved when Stacy left. Like, okay, that was weird. He could just feel like a weird vibe. And it started thundering outside. And he looked over at Connor and said, is she going to be okay? Like, I mean, you know, there's a storm coming. You know, is she going to be all right? And Connor said, oh, don't worry about her. She's fine. Look, so we have this problem with the wires. You see here where it's coming down here. Is that to code? And look at the studs here. Is that up to code? And he kind of brushed up against Jody's hand as he kind of went for the stud to show him, like, look at the measurement between these studs. I don't think that's code. What do you think? And Jody just kind of looked at him and said, well, I'm not really sure. I mean, you could talk to somebody with the city or something. I'm more of an electrician kind of person. I don't know all about house construction and stuff. Why don't you tell me something about your cupcakes? They smell really good. Can you tell me? I know the ingredients because you already told me the secret ingredients that Stacy said you were not supposed to tell anyone. And Connor kind of laughed like, I don't know why she cares so much. Like, she has all these secrets, but the secrets are really stupid. And Jody said, well, I don't know that I would say her secrets are stupid if they matter to her. And Connor said, okay, fine. I'll tell you how you make these things. Okay. Okay, first thing you need to do is preheat the oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Then line the muffin pan with paper liners. Put the butter, sugar, corn syrup, molasses, and ground ginger in a saucepan and heat gently until melted. Remove the pan from the heat and stir in the milk. Then beat in the egg and stem ginger. Sift the flour into the mixture and fold in. Spoon the mixture into the muffin cups and bake for about 20 minutes until risen and a skewer inserted in the center comes out clean. Transfer to a wire rack to cool. To decorate using the secret ingredients that I totally told you about, because like who cares? It's not a secret. Pour the lemon juice into a bowl. Gradually sift in the confectioner's sugar, stirring until smooth, thick, and spoonable. Spoon the icing over the cupcakes and put a few pieces of stem ginger on each one. Let set before serving. And I also like to use a little bit of apricot on there. Jody said, okay, well that sounds about right. That actually sounds really simple and really good. I can see why you'll make these all the time. Because I know you're very busy, but this sounds like it would be pretty easy. So Connor said, would you like a cupcake? These ones that we just took out of the oven are not iced yet, but I would love to give you one. And Jody said, how about we just focus on the work and not worry about it? Because he was kind of eager to get out of there because it was just a weird vibe, and he felt like Connor had just run Stacy off, and he felt like he just didn't want to be a part of whatever was going on. So he went ahead and dealt with the electrical issue. There were some wires that were supposed to be attached to the studs, but they had come loose. So he made sure everything was tightened up and the wires were secure. And he did grab one on the way out. And Connor tried to give him a hug and tried to get him to stay. And Jody said, no, I have to go. I have somewhere I have to be. So he got in his car. And he's sitting there and he's looking at the cupcake. And he was thinking about, all the times that Connor and Stacy had made cupcakes and all the work they had done together and how they loved to go to the farmer's market to get the ingredients for the cupcakes. He knew quite a bit about the evolution of their relationship. He started to feel bad. Like he started to feel like there was something. He didn't know what to say, but he kind of felt like he needed to tell Stacy something. And there had been times in the past with, in different situations where he just got a feeling about someone. And it turns out he was right, but he didn't say anything because he didn't really trust his instincts, so he didn't say anything. And so he kind of regretted not speaking up. So he held on to his cupcake and he kind of ate it as he drove, and he went to the craft store. He went straight to the craft store and he saw Stacy's car. So he kind of waited out in the parking lot, and fortunately the storm kind of passed quickly, so the rain had stopped by the time she came out. And she came out and he approached her, and he was just finishing up the cupcake, and she saw that he was holding the paper, and she said, oh, I see he gave you a cupcake. Thank you for coming over. And he said, oh, no problem, I just have to ask you, Stacy, I just got this weird feeling that something is not right between you two. And my instinct is telling me to ask you, are you okay? Are you okay? And it was almost like a dam just burst, and she just sobbed. She dropped her bags in the parking lot and she just sobbed. One of them landed in a puddle. And so Jody reached down and got it, picked up her bags, and she just kind of collapsed in his arms, and she was just sobbing. And she said, I don't know, I just feel so tired. I don't know how to describe it. I just feel so tired. This relationship just makes me tired. That's all I know to say. It just makes me tired. We have fun together. We have good times, but it seems like the bad times outweigh the good times. All the good memories I have with him it's almost like they've all been replaced by bad ones. He makes me doubt myself. He makes me not feel very good about myself. I don't like the person I am becoming with him. And Jody put her bags in her car and said, it may not be my place to say this, but that is the reason he is my ex. Because I went through the same exact thing with him. And I'm not here to tell you what to do with your future. It's up to you. But let me tell you, you can make gingerbread cupcakes with lemon icing just fine without a partner. And that is the end of the story of the gingerbread cupcakes with lemon icing. And that is going to do it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed our little cupcake recipes with gossip today. Thank you so much for being here. And I will see you again really soon.